The Mercer-Williams House in Savannah, Georgia, is steeped in history and intrigue. Built in 1860 and located across from Monterey Square, this Italianate revival house was masterfully restored by Jim Williams in the 1970s. Williams, a noted preservationist and antiques dealer, not only breathed new life into the home but also became entwined in its dark narrative. The house is infamous for three tragic deaths: the accidental fall of 11-year-old Tommy Downs in 1969, the 1981 shooting of Danny Hansford by Williams, and Williams's own death less than a year later in the same room where Hansford was killed. These events gained widespread attention, particularly through John Barrett's best-selling book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which chronicles the complex legal battles and the eerie atmosphere surrounding the house. Adding to its mystique, the Mercer-Williams House is rumored to be built over unmarked graves, contributing to its reputation as a haunted location. Ghost stories and local legends continue to thrive, making it a popular spot for both tourists and paranormal enthusiasts. For a deeper dive into its haunted history, you can listen to the episode of House Beautiful's podcast Dark House that explores the Mercer-Williams story. As the years passed, the Mercer-Williams House became a focal point for both local lore and tourist fascination. Many visitors reported eerie experiences while exploring the elegantly restored rooms, with some claiming to hear footsteps in the hallways or catch glimpses of shadowy figures in the corners of their eyes. Local legend has it that Tommy Downs, the young boy who tragically fell from the roof, remains tethered to the house, his playful spirit forever wandering its halls. Some have described the sensation of a child's presence, accompanied by the sound of laughter echoing through the air. Others believe that Danny Hansford's restless spirit still lingers, perhaps seeking justice or closure for his untimely death. Jim Williams, who dedicated so much of his life to restoring the house, also seems to have left an imprint on its atmosphere. Visitors have noted an unsettling feeling in the room where he died, often accompanied by a sudden chill, even in the warm Savannah air. Rumors about unmarked graves in the vicinity add another layer to the story, hinting at a deeper connection to Savannah's haunted past. Some historians and paranormal investigators have suggested that the land itself holds secrets, intertwined with the city's history of violence and tragedy. As the house continues to attract attention, both for its architectural beauty and its spectral tales, it stands as a testament to Savannah's rich and sometimes dark history. The Mercer-Williams House is not just a dwelling, but a haunting reminder of the lives that have touched its walls, lives marked by both beauty and sorrow. With each tour, visitors walk through the past, stepping into a narrative that refuses to be forgotten, leaving many to wonder what truly lies within the shadows of the Mercer-Williams House. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. As interest in the Mercer-Williams House grew, so did the stories surrounding it. The house became a popular destination for ghost tours, with guides recounting tales of the tragedies that unfolded within its walls. Each night, groups would gather outside, eyes wide with anticipation, as they listened to the haunting narratives that wove together the lives of its former residents. One particularly chilling tale emerged from the accounts of those who had spent the night in the house. They described feeling an unexplainable pull towards the attic, where Tommy had met his fate. Some claimed to have seen toys mysteriously arranged on the floor, as if a child had been playing there. Others spoke of cold spots that seemed to come alive with a palpable energy, hinting at the presence of a young spirit. The atmosphere of the house became almost palpable during these gatherings. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows danced along the walls, and the sounds of the city faded into an eerie silence. Visitors reported strange occurrences, lights flickering without reason, doors creaking open on their own, and the distinct sound of whispers echoing through the rooms. Meanwhile, the legal battles surrounding Danny Hansford's death remained a topic of local conversation, fueling the house's notoriety. Each trial brought new revelations and even more scrutiny of Williams's life and the relationships he had formed, particularly with Hansford. As stories circulated, they painted a complex portrait of a man caught in a web of love, loyalty, and tragedy, which only intensified the house's mystique. As the nights turned to months, the Mercer-Williams House became a symbol of Savannah's layered history, each layer revealing more about the lives that had passed through it. Some locals even speculated that the house itself was alive, reacting to the emotions of those who entered. Whether it was the remnants of joy, sorrow, or unresolved tension, visitors left with a sense of having experienced something beyond the ordinary. With the dawn of each new day, the house stood resolute, holding its secrets tightly, inviting yet haunting. People continued to be drawn to its stories, yearning to uncover what lay beneath its beautifully restored facade, unaware that some stories are never meant to be fully told. As the legacy of the Mercer-Williams house endures, it leaves many questions lingering in the air, echoing through the hallways of time. As the seasons changed, the Mercer-Williams house took on a life of its own, embodying the ebb and flow of time. The lush gardens surrounding the property flourished, their beauty stark against the darker tales whispered among visitors. The rich blooms and vibrant greenery seemed to contrast sharply with the tragedies that marked the house's history, creating an atmosphere that was both enchanting and unsettling. As Halloween approached, the local community prepared for a season filled with ghostly festivities. The house was set to host a special event, a candlelit tour that promised to delve deeper into its haunted legacy. Anticipation buzzed in the air as locals and tourists alike secured their tickets, eager to experience the stories that had become part of Savannah's folklore. On the night of the event, the house glowed softly under the moonlight, casting long shadows that danced like spirits across the ground. Groups of visitors huddled together, their breath visible in the cool autumn air as they stepped inside. The scent of aged wood and antique furnishings wrapped around them like a familiar embrace. But there was also a tension, an unspoken understanding that something beyond the physical lay within. As the tour guide led the way through the grand parlor, recounting the events that had transpired, the atmosphere shifted. Stories of Jim Williams's meticulous restorations mixed with eerie accounts of the night Danny Hansford was shot. Guests listened intently, their eyes wide with a mix of fascination and fear. Suddenly, as they gathered in the room where Hansford lost his life, a loud thud echoed from the attic above. The group fell silent, eyes darting upward. Some speculated it was just the old house settling, but others exchanged glances filled with unease, recalling the tales of the child who played among the rafters. The guide attempted to regain control of the narrative, but the moment lingered in the air, thick with anticipation. Curiosity got the better of a few brave souls, and they proposed a quick ascent to the attic. The guide hesitated, a knowing look in her eyes, but ultimately relented, her curiosity piqued. The group ascended the narrow staircase, the wood creaking under their weight, each step heightening the sense of suspense. When they reached the attic, the dim light cast eerie shadows against the walls, revealing forgotten toys and dusty remnants of childhood. The atmosphere felt charged, as if the air itself was alive with energy. Then, just as someone reached out to touch a weathered doll, a chill swept through the room, making everyone shiver involuntarily. "Did you feel that?" one visitor whispered, her voice barely audible. Heads nodded slowly, and a nervous laughter erupted, masking the collective unease. Just then, a small breeze fluttered through the attic, stirring the dust and carrying with it the faintest sound, a child's laughter. It echoed off the walls, light and airy, yet hauntingly familiar. The group froze, their hearts racing. The laughter grew softer, almost playful, as if inviting them to join in a game long forgotten. And in that moment, they realized that the Mercer-Williams house was not just a site of tragedy. It was also a keeper of memories, where joy and sorrow intertwined. As the laughter faded, a new understanding washed over them. They weren't merely visitors in a haunted house. They were participants in a story that transcended time, a story that would continue to unfold with each passing year, each new visitor, each whispered secret. But what other secrets lay hidden within those walls, waiting to be uncovered? The night was still young, and the house had much more to share. As the group stood frozen in the attic, the air thick with anticipation, the echo of the child's laughter lingered in their minds. Whispers spread among them, each visitor sharing their own theories about the spirits residing in the Mercer-Williams house. Some believed it was Tommy, seeking companionship, while others thought it might be the ghost of a child from the past, longing to be remembered. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught their attention. One of the visitors pointed toward a small window, where the moonlight poured in, illuminating a dusty corner. There, half hidden beneath a tattered quilt, was an old wooden chest. The group exchanged curious glances, an unspoken agreement passing between them. They had to see what was inside. With a sense of urgency, they approached the chest. It was weathered and locked, but the guide, who had spent years in the house, produced an old key she had found during her research. Heart pounding, she inserted the key into the lock, and with a satisfying click, the chest creaked open. Inside, they discovered a collection of forgotten toys, faded photographs, and delicate letters tied with a fraying ribbon. The guide carefully lifted a small doll, its glass eyes staring blankly ahead, and began to read one of the letters aloud. It was from a mother to her child, expressing love and longing during a time of separation, a poignant reminder of the familial bonds that once thrived within the house. As the words filled the room, the atmosphere shifted again, charged with emotion. The laughter from earlier seemed to resonate deeper, a reflection of joy tinged with the bittersweet ache of memories lost. The visitors felt a connection not just to the spirits they had come to learn about, but to the very essence of life that had unfolded within these walls. But just as they began to absorb the significance of the find, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, jolting them back to the present. The group exchanged frightened glances, and the guide's expression turned serious. "We should check that out," she said, her voice steady but with an undercurrent of concern. Descending the attic stairs, they moved cautiously, the air thick with tension. As they reached the parlor, they found the source of the noise. A heavy bookshelf had toppled over, scattering books across the floor. A few guests gasped, while others moved closer, trying to piece together what had happened. "Did someone bump into it?" someone asked, scanning the group for answers. But everyone insisted they had been standing still, the atmosphere too charged for anyone to have moved. The guide knelt beside the mess, her heart racing. As she began to pick up the scattered books, she noticed one in particular lying open, its pages fluttering slightly as if stirred by an unseen breeze. Intrigued, she leaned closer to read the title, Whispers of the Past. It was a collection of local ghost stories, many of which featured the Mercer-Williams house. Curiously, the page it had opened to was a story about the very events surrounding Danny Hansford's death. The details seemed to mirror what they had just discussed in the attic, as if the house itself was weaving its own narrative into their experience. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the uncanny coincidence. Some felt a chill run down their spines, while others exchanged knowing glances, as if realizing they were part of something much larger than a simple ghost tour. Just then, the lights flickered again, and the temperature dropped noticeably. A gust of wind rushed through the room, sending a shiver through the group. In that moment, it felt as if the house was coming alive, responding to their presence and their questions. "Maybe it's trying to tell us something," one visitor whispered, their voice barely above a breath. With renewed curiosity, they gathered closer, sensing that the house had more stories to share, stories that intertwined with their own lives, revealing hidden connections and untold truths. As the night deepened, they realized they were not just witnesses to history. They were part of a living tapestry, woven with the threads of past and present. But what other revelations awaited them in the shadows of the Mercer-Williams house? The air was thick with questions, and the answers were just beyond reach, lingering in the dark corners and hidden rooms, ready to unveil themselves to those willing to listen. As the group huddled together, a palpable energy filled the room, weaving a delicate thread between them and the house. The guide, feeling an urge to delve deeper, proposed they share their own stories, experiences of loss, love, or moments that had changed their lives. Perhaps, she suggested, this act of sharing would create a bridge between the living and the spirits that lingered within the walls. One by one, the visitors opened up, their voices soft but steady. A young woman spoke of her grandmother, who had passed away just months prior, sharing fond memories of their time together. An older gentleman recounted his youth in Savannah, revealing how the city's history had shaped him and the importance of remembering those who had come before. Each story added weight to the atmosphere, infusing the house with a sense of connection and understanding. As they spoke, the lights flickered again, and a gentle breeze swept through the room, almost as if the house was acknowledging their tales. The guide felt a warmth envelop her as she recounted her own connection to the Mercer-Williams house, how it had captivated her since childhood and ignited her passion for history. Just as she finished her story, a faint whisper seemed to echo in response, barely audible but unmistakably present. The group fell silent, straining to hear. A few exchanged nervous glances, while others leaned in, captivated. The whisper grew slightly clearer, weaving through the fabric of their shared experiences. Remember, it seemed to say, urging them to connect with the past, to honor those who had lived and died within these walls. Feeling emboldened, one of the visitors suggested they form a circle and hold hands, creating a physical representation of their collective energy. They gathered close, the warmth of their palms against one another providing comfort amidst the uncertainty. With eyes closed, they focused on their breathing, drawing upon the stories they had shared, inviting the spirits to join them in this moment of remembrance. As they concentrated, the atmosphere thickened, almost vibrating with energy. The air felt electric, as if every soul that had ever walked the floors of the Mercer-Williams house was drawn to this gathering. Just then, the doll from the attic, still held by the guide, began to sway slightly in her grip, as if animated by an unseen force. Some of the visitors gasped, while others opened their eyes, a mix of awe and fear etched on their faces. The guide, trying to remain composed, gently set the doll down, where it landed softly on the floor, facing the circle. "Perhaps it wants to tell us its story," she suggested, her voice steady but filled with wonder. The group nodded, captivated by the notion. They continued to focus on their connection, inviting whatever presence might be near to share its story, to reveal itself in whatever form it might take. Suddenly, the room temperature dropped further, and the candles flickered wildly. A gust of wind swept through the parlor, rattling the windows and sending a shiver down everyone's spine. Just as panic began to rise, the group held tighter, anchoring one another as they remained committed to their collective purpose. In that moment, a voice clearer than before cut through the tension. "Remember us," it resonated deeply, echoing through the hearts of everyone present. The message was not just an invitation but a plea for recognition, a reminder that the past, filled with both joy and sorrow, was ever present. Feeling an overwhelming sense of connection, the group began to whisper names, calling out those they wished to remember. Each name hung in the air, a tribute to the lives entwined with the Mercer-Williams house, reinforcing the bond between past and present. And as they continued, the very walls of the house seemed to breathe with them, a silent witness to their gathering, a keeper of the stories that longed to be told. But just when they thought they had reached the culmination of this shared experience, an unexpected sound echoed from the corner of the room, a soft giggle, reminiscent of a child playing hide and seek. It resonated through the silence, stirring something deep within the group. What was it trying to convey? And what secrets still lay hidden, waiting for them to uncover? As the giggle echoed through the room, a wave of warmth swept over the group, dispelling their fear. It felt like a playful invitation, urging them to embrace the spirit of the house. They turned towards the corner where the sound had come from, and there, illuminated by the flickering candlelight, stood the doll they had placed on the floor, slightly tilted as if alive. Feeling a surge of courage, the guide suggested they share their favorite childhood memories. One by one, they recounted tales of laughter, adventure, and innocence, filling the room with joy and nostalgia. With each story, the atmosphere grew lighter, and the childlike laughter returned, mingling with their voices. Suddenly, a gentle breeze rustled the curtains, and for a fleeting moment, they all felt a presence warm and familiar, as if the spirits were listening and celebrating with them. The lights flickered one last time, and then settled into a soft glow. As the night wore on, they sensed the connection between their stories and the lives lived within the Mercer-Williams house. With their hearts full and spirits lifted, the group finally dispersed, taking with them not only the memories of their own experiences, but also a deeper understanding of the past. In the days that followed, the stories of that night spread throughout Savannah, adding another layer to the lore of the Mercer-Williams house. The echoes of laughter and the whispers of remembrance would linger, reminding all who entered that while the past may be shrouded in mystery, it is always worth honoring. And as long as stories were told, the spirits would never truly be forgotten. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.